Stories are the most powerful thing on earth. They are literally life and death. Wars are waged based on the story of who is the hero and who is the villain. You are the result of a story your parents told each other, the one-night stand, the soulmate, and friends who became so much more. Life and death. So wouldn't you like to understand them better, these stories? How Story Works, an elegant guide to the craft of storytelling by Lonnie Diane Rich, demystifies stories and helps you understand why you love what you love, why you hate what you hate, and why prologues are almost always a bad idea. How Story Works by Lonnie Diane Rich. Available on Amazon in ebook, audiobook, and paperback form. Get your copy today.
Welcome to Still Pretty, a Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast from Chipperish Media. I'm film scholar and late-night stormtrooper pal Noelle LaCroix.
And I'm story expert and broken, hollow mockery of the human condition, Lonnie Diane Rich. And we're here today to talk about The Initiative, the 7th episode of Season 4.
The Initiative aired on November 16th, 1999, and was written by Douglas Petrie and directed by James A. Contner. And James fucking Marsters is in the opening credits!
I know. I love it. I love it. I love it so much. All right. For those of you who are unaware, this is a fully spoiled Buffy podcast. So we're going to talk about everything. We're going to talk about everything that happens in Buffy. We may even talk about stuff that happens in Angel. What I'm saying is you're going to want to watch it all and then come back. You dumped me and staked me and hurt me and left me. So let's go on patrol. In The Initiative, we are introduced to Riley's buddies, Forrest and Graham. Forrest, who is the human expression of the concept of ugh, objectifies all the women in the dining hall, specifically Buffy. Riley is unsure. Buffy's a bit too peculiar for him. Meanwhile, Spike wakes up in an electrified cell, one of many in some facility full of caged demons. At Giles's, Xander and Giles are trying to figure out what's going on with the commandos, and we get a peek at the looming existential crisis that is Sweater Giles.
Once again, I'd say that you and I will not be needed to help Buffy.
Really?
Really?
Well, how about this? We whip out the Ouija board, light a few candles, summon some ancient unstoppable evil, mayhem, mayhem, mayhem. We show up and kick its ass.
Buffy walks in and says she's taking Willow to a party that night to cheer her up, so Xander and Giles will be on patrol. In the facility, the vamp in the cell next to Spike warns him about the blood being drugged and mentions the Slayer. Spike loses his mind and swears to take her apart. In class, Willow asks about Oz not being on the roll call, and Maggie Walsh is a total monster about it. Oh my god. Giles and Xander prepare for an evening out patrolling. Riley and Forrest talk about Buffy and then ask Parker about her, who is gross. And why are you still here, Parker? Nobody likes you. Especially, as it turns out, Riley.
You know the difference between a freshman girl and a toilet seat. The toilet seat doesn't follow you around after you use it.
Okay. Riley's not so bad, at least right now. He processes why he hit Parker, realizes he has feelings for Buffy, and goes to see her. In the facility, Spike pretends to be knocked out as a couple of whitecoats come to get him and put him on a stretcher. He fights with the whitecoats, frees the vamp in the cell next to him, and they rush out. He throws the other vamp to a bunch of commandos and gets out. Willow is moping in her dorm room when Riley shows up and tells her he wants to ask Buffy out and wants her help.
Okay, say that I help. And you start a conversation, it goes great. You like Buffy, she likes you. You spend time together, feelings grow deeper. And one day, without even realizing it, you find you're in love. Time stops, and it feels like the whole world's made for you two, and you two alone. Until the day one of you leaves and rips the still beating heart from the other, who's now a broken, hollow mockery of the human condition.
Yep, that's the plan.
Willow warms up to Riley a little and tells him that Buffy likes cheese, which is a start. She also tells him about the party they're going to, which is coincidentally at his dorm. Spike shows up at Harmony's lair. He gives her some half-assed, semi-affectionate platitudes, and she takes him back happily. He wants to go kill the Slayer, but she thinks it's a bad idea because the Slayer will kick his ass. Again. At the party, Willow gives Riley some insider tips.
Okay, she's wearing the halter top with sensible shoes. That means mostly dancing, light contact, but don't push your luck. Heavy conversations out of the question.
So what do I do?
Ask her to dance.
Right. Dance. Wait. No.
What's the matter?
I can't dance.
Then talk. Keep eye contact. Funny is good, but don't be glib. And remember, if you hurt her, I will beat you to death with a shovel. A vague disclaimer's nobody's friend. Have fun.
Xander and Giles split up while patrolling, and Xander comes up on Harmony in the woods. They have a quick slap fight, and she tells him Spike's back and planning to kill Buffy. At the party, even with Willow's help, Riley cannot get started with Buffy. Willow tries to comfort him when a Dingoes song comes on, and she feels it. She sends him to talk to Buffy and leaves to go back to the dorm. Riley tries to talk to Buffy again, but Xander comes in and takes her out to deal with Spike. Forrest and Graham come to get Riley. They go through a wall mirror that does a retinal scan. It's an elevator. Riley, Graham, and Forrest go down into a subterranean facility where teams of people are working on various demons, and they report in to Maggie Walsh.
Gentlemen, suit up. We have a code red. Hostile 17 has escaped.
Riley takes command of a team sent out to go after Spike, known to them only as Hostile 17. Buffy meets with Giles and Xander and puts a plan together for killing Spike. Meanwhile, Spike is in the school computer, looking up Buffy's dorm room. Outside, Riley and the commando see Buffy sitting on a bench, waiting. Riley decides he needs to get her out of there, and she almost stakes him. He tries to get her to leave, and she tries to get him to leave. But when they each hear a girl scream, they run off to do their respective jobs. Spike shows up at the dorm, and Willow accidentally invites him in. But when he tries to bite her, pain shoots through his head, and he can't.
I don't understand. This sort of thing's never happened to me before.
Maybe you were nervous.
I felt all right when I started. Let's try again.
Willow comforts Spike for a bit, then realizes what she's doing and hits him over the head with a lamp. She runs out. The commandos track Spike to Willow's room and decide to go in. Spike comes into the hallway after Willow and the commandos attack, smoking up the hallway to hide what they're doing, I guess. They get Spike, then try to take Willow into quarantine because she may have been turned. But Buffy comes in and fights them off, shooting Xander's flare gun to blind them all. She gets Willow safely inside the dorm room and continues to fight the commandos. Spike takes that opportunity to run away. Buffy and a masked Riley fight, and then Riley's vision starts to come back and he realizes he's been fighting a woman. He rushes off with the commandos, telling them to abort the mission. At the facility, Walsh gives them a dressing down, and Riley reports that Hostile 17's chip is working. He can't hurt any living human. On campus, Riley approaches Buffy, and they talk.
Did Willow tell you I like cheese?
You're a little peculiar.
All right, Noelle. Okay, so The Initiative is one of these episodes, and I need to find like a term for describing those episodes where the main story, the A plot, you don't really think about it that much. When you think about the episode, when I think about this episode, I just think commandos and all of that stuff that I don't really care that much about. And I forget how delightful this episode really can be. I mean, the moment-to-moment stuff is great. We've got Xander's dialogue, which is great. And of course, this is the Xander that I love. We get Buffy telling off Maggie Walsh, which I love
So
that.
good.
Riley hitting Parker in the face, which is really cathartic. Sweater Giles. We get Spike, and of course, I looked it up at a certain point where I'm like, this is a delightful episode. Who wrote this? And of course, it's Doug Petrie, who is right up there with Jane Espenson, Marty Noxon, and Joss Whedon in my list of favorite writers ever. But the overall story of the initiative is kind of like meh, 10 minutes in, we still don't have a strong sense of the episodic narrative. Who's the bad guy? What's the conflict? It doesn't really show up in the first act, at least not for Buffy. I mean, basically, Buffy is kind of the object in these stories. The A story is Riley realizing he has feelings for Buffy and wanting to talk to her. So that's kind of what the A story is. And then the B story is Spike trying to kill Buffy and get out of the initiative facility. So Buffy is kind of like sidelined in this, and it's about these men who want her for different reasons, although Spike has some of the same reasons, I think. So it's because of this phenomena where like the main story isn't strong enough for me to remember this episode, that whenever I think about it, I'm like, ugh, the initiative. But when I actually watched it, the short game, like the moment to moment work, is fantastic. And the long game is functional. I just don't really care because it's about what Riley wants and it's about what Spike wants. And this is an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So it feels a little weak. I don't know. What was your response overall to the initiative?
Well, I always forget that the initiative is probably my most quoted episode of Buffy.
Oh, yeah.
Because there are several lines that are so wonderful and work in a variety of situations,
Yes,
like day to day sort of,
Applicable,
if you hurt
yes.
her, I will beat you to death with a shovel. It's like,
Exactly.
it's the real deal. But I'm with you on the, like, Buffy is just kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
Like she sort of moves through the world.
She's the objective.
Kind of,
She's not the protagonist. Yeah.
It's so like my notes, literally the heading of my notes is "This Week in Men." I mean, there were a lot of men in this episode.
It is a very manly man episode. Yeah.
It's like a very, very manly episode of Buffy. Which is ironic because of course we open with Forrest saying, "Women, young, nubile, exciting," and a close-up of breasts and just that's fun.
God. Also,
Yeah.
can we just, like, anybody out there who wants to describe a young woman as nubile, just don't. Just don't. There are other words. Go to your thesaurus, find something better, because I hate that word. That word feels so predatory to me in nature. Ugh.
It's very, it's very Lolita. It's really uncomfortable.
God.
So Forrest is drooling over Buffy while Buffy is being a complete and total klutz. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, Lonnie, this is kind of a romantic heroine thing. Like, she's perfect in every possible way except, oh no, Froyo. She trips on nothing. She loses to a ballpoint pen. Like, it's like, it's so cute. And she's so perfect, but she can't be perfect because, she breaks the Froyo machine. And
right.
Froyo, by the way, is a millennial abbreviation for Fantasies of Riley Ogling You Only. You're welcome.
Aw, that's very sweet. I like it. Yeah, no, this is absolutely a romantic comedy heroine trope, right? It's a little bit Manic Pixie Dream Girl, where it's like she's perfect in every way, but we have to have something about her that gives her a sense of humanity and vulnerability and accessibility, and so we make them clumsy. Like, they can trip over things. And isn't it so cute? So that the thing about them that is imperfect is still so freaking cute, and it's really annoying, it's one of those things that you see over and over and over and over again. It's like, no, rough up those edges. A woman can only be lovable if her flaws are cute.
Yeah.
And that I find to be like a repetitive and really irritating kind of cultural message.
Yep. It's gross. I don't like it. Forrest. Forrest. Really? I mean, Forrest uses the word mattressable and just, no.
Stop trying to make mattressable happen, Forrest. It's not going to happen. He's just the worst. He's just the absolute worst. Although I do like this moment where, Riley saying there's something definitely off about Buffy, and Graham says maybe she's Canadian.
So good.
It's kind of cute.
I kind of love
I do
Graham.
like Graham.
I like Graham.
Graham's
I
very
like
sweet.
Him.
We don't get much of him
supportive.
in this episode.
No, he's very supportive of Riley in this episode, though, and I think it's very cute.
He is.
But it's, it's all the boys doing their boy stuff, and I love the Xander Giles boys doing boy stuff.
Yes. Yes. No, that is actually a nice contrast to that.
Yeah.
It's really, really very sweet. Xander and Giles, I have to say, so we've got Sweater Giles, right? Who I love. Sweater Giles speaks directly to my heart. I love in this episode how he's constantly eating his feelings. It is such a sweet detail to show him like feeling useless and pointless and uninspired, you know? I love Giles and Xander as a thematic team, like two men on either side of like feeling useless, you know? I love that Giles can like expertly handle the flare gun when Xander is there with all of his, you know, implanted soldier experience. I'll tell you, Giles has got a skill set. And then when Xander's mom calls down, and then Giles is like, "Is it raspberry fruit punch?" It's so cute. I love Sweater Giles.
I love Giles. I love Giles, you know, handling the flare gun with just no comment. No, just takes it and
Yep.
Yeah. But I also love him grazing on Xander's chips.
I know.
Did you see that? It's kind of in the background. It's not really called out, but it's so funny. He takes one, he pops it in his mouth, chomps down, grimaces, and then just sets the bag down. Like, no, not worth it. Like,
I'm not that depressed.
Exactly.
Doritos, and it's Doritos too, which I find like the specificity of that because I think Doritos is the food you eat when you're depressed and secretly trying to kill yourself. I think that's so. If he's not willing to eat Doritos, then he hasn't gone too far down. And I say this as someone, Noelle and I have actually split a bag of Doritos between us.
Yes, we have.
So we know what of we speak. But Xander, this is my I love Xander so much in this episode. Like, he is becoming the Xander that when I was ashamed for loving him in the first 3 seasons. Like, this is the reason why. I love the latest in fall fascism. I like it. A bit full in the hips for my taste. Like, he's just, everything is so cute. He has such great dialogue here. In the beginning, when he and Giles are hanging out trying to figure out the commandos, and Giles is all like, well, you know, not that we'll be able to do anything about it, you know. And when Xander goes, look, we get out the Ouija board, we summon some unstoppable evil, mayhem, 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 we show up and kick its ass, right? And I'm like, oh, I see we're laying the track down here for Once More with Feeling, you know. But yeah, I love everything Xander in this whole thing. When he's like, right now I don't have the technical skills to join the Swiss army, and all those guys ask you to do is uncork a couple of sassy Cabernets. I love all of this stuff, but my favorite Xander is Xander and Harmony's slap fight. Like, this freaking delights me.
Amen. Most epic fight in all of Buffy. It makes me so happy.
I love that whole thing. But also, like, she's a fucking vampire. Like, she can take Xander when they're there pulling each other's hair and they're both like, okay, I'll let go. I'm like, okay, now Harmony, like, okay, is the strength that you get from being a vampire, is it, I guess, proportional to the strength that you had as a human? So that if you were a weaker human, then you'd be a weaker vampire?
I think so.
She's kind of tiny.
I think so, because we've had big, like, brute vampires who are clearly the muscle. Like, we've seen, you know, like the big, you know, meathead bro vampires. Those guys seem to be, I mean, I don't know. It's a good question. I just assume that vampire is just like a filter that you put on human. I know that's not really what the show wants us to think, but like, because really, like, I mean, we have enough evidence at this point that, like, being a vampire really just kind of dials up certain aspects of a person's personality. And you're, you know, stronger and immortal or whatever, but not...
And evil and soulless.
Yeah, and evil and soulless and, you know, and on and on and on, whatever. But, yeah, I mean, I think I buy Harmony as, like, a tiny little vampire, little, you know, little slip of a vamp. I like it.
Who is she biting? Like, she can't take Xander in a fight. Like, I guess she's biting very tiny women, I guess. You know?
It's possible.
Like, is that the vampire's version of I'll just have a salad? I don't know.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, I just... No, I'm not hungry at all. I just ate a supermodel.
I just had a supermodel.
Supermodel.
Oh my God. But I love this with Xander. It's like, Harmony, it's been great catching up. I'm going to take the shattered shreds of my dignity and go home.
Oh God, his ow
It's just so
when she
cute.
slaps
His
him
ow when
is so
she
good.
slaps him.
He's
I
so
love
offended.
that. He's
He's like, yeah, I'm gonna put this stake through your heart, and she's like, please.
I know.
It's so great. I'll kill you where you
It's
stand.
so
Like she's
sweet.
not impressed, and then she smacks him. And
I
he's
know.
offended, which I love.
It's so cute.
They're so
it's
good.
so incredibly cute. And then, of course, we've got Spike and Harmony, you know. So as long as we're on Harmony, let's keep going. I love this whole thing with Spike and Harmony. I love my little foam latte, mon petit creme brulee. Like everything he says to her is just my little pack of mentholated smokes when he's looking around. You're like, it's so freaking cute. And he absolutely, of course, has no intention of staying with her. And then she's out burning his stuff, you know, and like, you're a vampire, Harmony. Maybe don't play with matches. Like maybe. I don't know.
All right. Vampires clearly have a thing for fire, though, because Angel, why is there a fire in the fireplace
And he's always sitting right next to it reading. Reading with paper. Reading with something that could be kindling. Yes.
Like, you yourself are flammable. This will completely
You yourself
kill
are
you.
highly flammable. There are three things in the world that can kill you. Everything else is fine. 3 things that can kill you. So maybe avoid those 3 things. Like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, they love fire. They love peanut butter. I don't know. There's some like vampire quirks that show up.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah. She's just playing with matches. Gasoline, no big deal.
I know. It's so
Harmony.
cute.
Harmony. Like,
Spiky,
I would listen
leave
to the
Slayer
Sex
alone.
Pistols. Ew.
It is so incredibly cute. It is so cute. But of course, like, I love Spike. Of course, I always love Spike. But Spike in this episode, when the other vampire says the Slayer and he goes on his crazy rant, which I absolutely love. Let me go ahead and just play that for you now.
The Slayer! I knew it!
Took apart my crew and led me straight to these guys.
Set me up too. I always worried what would happen when that bitch got so funny. Wised up a bit. Fine! I'll take her apart. I don't care how brilliant she is.
I don't care how brilliant she is.
Love it.
And I always worried what would happen when that bitch got some funding. I love the whole thing. I love his obsession, you know, with Buffy. And of course, like, you know, I keep thinking, when did he fall in love with Buffy? When did he fall in love with Buffy? And I really do. I absolutely, like, he's already obsessed with her now. You know, I think that he fell in love with her when he watched the videotapes of her fighting way back in season 2 when he was in the factory. I think that's when this all started.
He's definitely, there's that you know, mustache twirling villain, but also infatuation thing going on with Spike and Buffy, which I really really enjoy.
Right.
Yeah, I would buy it, especially because Spike loves the world. So Spike loves TV, and Spike watching TV, there's something very, you know, down to earth about that. And yeah, he's, you know, he's set up this recording and all that, but I like it. Metaphorically, I like it. Right. I like that idea. Well, and then Spike, that aligns Spike with the audience too. If Spike forms this attachment to Buffy in season 2 through the TV screen, I mean, hello, hello, this is what we're all doing here. So Spike is a little bit of an audience. I don't know. He's not quite an access character in the usual sense, but he definitely. He gets to respond to things in a way that I think feels very much like he is an audience member. Like he is with us watching the show.
There is a little bit of that. There is a little bit of a metatextual kind of feel to Spike that he knows a little bit more about like what's going on, you know. But he's really fun. And then, you know, we've got Buffy, of course, as the background, as the object in these 2 competing stories, Riley's story and Spike's story. But we got a couple of great moments for Buffy. We have this great moment where she's so there for Willow. She is completely into taking care care of Willow. She is not going on patrol because she's taking care of Willow. And when she tells Giles and Xander that, she is like, and I will not have argument. This is how it is. You guys are going on patrol. I love that. And of course, I love when she has this interaction with Maggie Walsh.
You know, for someone who teaches human behavior, you might try showing some.
It's not my job to coddle my students.
You're right. A human being in pain has nothing to do with your job.
Oh, man. I love that. I love the way she confronts Maggie Walsh. I even like the fact that this is the moment when Riley's like, oh, I like this girl, you know?
Well, it's funny because, of course, Maggie Walsh comes back from that interaction and says, I like her.
I like her.
Which is so great. And then Riley is just like, what? Like, is it, you know, and then we get to hit peculiar again, which is such a weird, like, writerly choice of word. Like,
yes.
I mean, this episode is brought to you by the word peculiar.
It is.
Like, and I don't know what it would take for me personally to describe someone as peculiar. So I looked it up.
It's not a word that people use. Ooh, I like it. A little etymology. Our etymology moment.
Etymology corner of Still Pretty.
Yes.
So peculiar comes from pecu, which is Latin for cattle. So that's fun. Yeah.
Interesting. Did he call her a cow? Yeah.
Well, the first meaning of peculiar, and I did not know this, is belonging exclusively to one person. From Latin peculiaris, of one's own property, from peculium, private property, which is property being measured in cattle, which in ancient times was the most important form of property. So to paraphrase, when Harry met Sally, is one of us supposed to be cattle in this scenario?
Yes.
But
yes,
the sense of peculiar as strange didn't come into the English language until quite a bit later. I think that's interesting.
Interesting. No, that is so interesting. I love this etymology moment thing you're doing. That is like one of my favorite things. Please keep that going.
I shall.
Exactly. The use of peculiar here, it is a very writerly word. It's the kind of word that you write but you don't say. But Riley says it along with courting, which, whatever, Riley. Like, since when did you become a 19th century British gentleman? Like, whatever. Are you her suitor? Like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, probably. I mean,
probably.
Honestly.
Yeah. He's going to go woo her, I guess. So we have this whole thing with Riley. We've got this whole peculiar thing, and I have very mixed feelings about Riley. Like, as we all know, as I think I have clearly expressed a number of times, my entire experience of Riley throughout the run of the show is kind of like the anti-Xander, right? You know, like Xander gets so good that I love him, and that love kind of washes over everything else that he does, even when he's terrible. And I have the opposite experience with Riley, is that how much I hate him by the time we get to season 5, when he finally fucking leaves, bleeds into everything. And as I'm watching this episode, I'm like, you know what? I like him. I like that he doesn't fall in love with Buffy because she's beautiful, that it's when he sees who she actually is, that he starts to fall for her. He's impressed by the fact that she stood up to Maggie Walsh and told her off. I like that, you know. I like, you know, when he's talking to his friends about her, you know, and I like all of that stuff. I love that he notices Willow with the bag when he goes to the dorm room to try to talk about Buffy, and Willow's trying to, like, you know, surreptitiously kick the bag of weapons under the bed. And he's like, oh, let me help you with that. And then pushes it under there. He's so focused on helping her with her objective, which he notices in the first place, which I like.
Yeah.
And B, then doesn't make it his business to look at what's in the bag. He just, you know, that's not his business. He's just helping her. He's so focused on her. So I actually really kind of like that with him. And I like that moment where he says, if you want to tell me to go to hell, that's fine. Maybe this is the last thing you want to talk about right now. I love that he has that sensitivity to her feelings in that moment, that he's thinking not just about how to get Buffy, but he's also thinking about how him asking Willow that might be making Willow feel right now. So I like all that stuff about Riley. But then, do you want to go into the stuff that's shitty about Riley in this episode? I thought you might have some fun with that.
I mean, okay. I love the moment with Riley helping Willow hide the weapons under the bed because, as you say, he's clearly paying attention. He knows that something is private. He's like, this I love. And there's a lot of Riley that I really like in this episode. But this is the episode where my Riley love starts to fade a little bit. So Riley punches Parker, and I am here for it. I mean, I'm here for it. And here's the thing. I mean, Parker, why is he still here? Seriously.
Why is he still here? What is going on?
And he's so, extra gross. He's extra gross. Because when we last left him, I mean, before he was knocked unconscious, Parker was the floppy-haired douchebag with a couple of good ideas about sex and intimacy.
Right.
He was manipulative and gross, but also he had that, all right, maybe he's got a point. But this is some, next level gross. It's... did he have a personality transplant when he was knocked unconscious? I don't know. Whatever. Or did it just bring out his true nature? Anyway.
Or is he just really even worse than we thought he was? Which was not great, Parker.
No.
You had a low bar and you dug underneath and made a groove that you could then slide under like a freaking snake. I think this is the last we see of Parker, but Jesus.
You know what it is? We have never seen him alone with men, with other men. This is how he is with men versus how he is with women. We've only ever seen him with women.
Gross.
That's disgusting. Okay, moving right along. So I'm
glad Riley punched him in the face.
I'm so glad Riley punches him. But I hate this idea that Riley only punches Parker because Parker is being gross about Buffy.
Right.
And then this acoustic guitar music is playing as the guys are walking through the quad. We're supposed to think that this is romantic. We're supposed to be like, oh, Riley, in this moment, he's in love with Buffy. No. Forrest straight up tells him, I say way grosser things all the time and you don't punch me in the face.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
It's okay to be gross about women as long as you're not interested in dating them or
as long as
courting them, as it were.
Right.
What the fuck? What the fuck? And
well, it's because Riley, this is his woman, right? So this is his cattle. This is his peculiar. This is his, right?
Yeah. Property.
She's his cattle. He's decided that she's his, right? And so now she is his to defend, and he's got this old-fashioned, chivalrous kind of view of the world, which is
Teutonic, as Xander says.
Teutonic, as it turns out, yes.
But, I like the scene. I like a lot of the interactions between Riley and Willow. But when he comes to ask about Buffy, and Willow goes, she's not here, which is so cute. It's so cute. But Riley doesn't, I don't think, know Willow well enough to make that, I hope I'm not interrupting anything really depressing remark.
Right.
I just, that was right on, it was right on a line for me. But of course, and Buffy calls him on it later. She says, you think boys can take care of themselves and girls need help? And he says, yeah. And I'm like, I'm out.
I'm out.
Peace.
I'm out.
I'm out. That's it.
Okay. Here's the thing. I'm not completely out on that. While I definitely disagree, and I think that his view of everything is, needs some education, probably. I appreciate that he I think it comes from a good place, and he was raised in a society where that's what he was told it makes a good man, somebody who protects the ladies, and it gives him a place to arc with his character and his understanding of the world. So I agree 100%. At the same time, I'm like, well, he's young. He'll learn.
I hope
I'm not going to cancel Riley over that shit. Trust me. That is not the thing that's going to get Riley canceled with me. But his protective, I am man bullshit, is really annoying on that. And he's got this idea of protecting the civilians from the demons. And when he's in this scene with her, what drives me crazy is that he keeps touching her.
Yes.
He doesn't know she's the Slayer. He is easily twice her size.
Yeah.
Don't touch.
Her waist is as big around as his neck. It's just not.
I know. And it's just I understand that as an actor, you go in to physically express the intent of the scene, and him trying to move her speaks to his intent. And like, I get where that comes from as a blocking thing, as an acting thing. But the thing is that like a man of that size, I mean, touching a woman, like also don't touch women. Unless invited to. Like,
touch
don't
people.
touch anybody.
Touch
don't touch anybody. Don't touch anybody. I mean, I have a problem with this because I'm a hugger. So it's very hard for me because I have this tendency to like see people and hug them without asking permission first. I'm working on it. But some people don't like to be touched. Some people don't feel comfortable with that. And I think you have to be sensitive to that, especially because you don't know what her history is. Like, you know, if she had been at some point, and let's face it, lots of people have had some assault at some point in their lives. Like, you don't know. You don't know what's going to freak people out, so just fucking don't do it. So him using his like undeniable hugeness, you know, his physical presence as a way to like physically move her against her will. Do not like that. Do not care for that. I appreciate I want to protect people. I appreciate that he wants to use like his body and his power to protect other people from things that he thinks she doesn't know about, from things that he thinks like, you know, and I get that. And I think that genuinely does come from a good place. But Riley is, you know, I start to like him in this episode, and then it takes that like weird left turn. It's not great. Plus the fact that look who he hangs out with. Okay. Also, let me just say, for the record, I fucking resent that we finally get a character of color and he's a fucking asshole, right? I mean, the thing is that black characters can be shitty, and that's fine. They don't need to be perfect. That's insulting. That shit is annoying and insulting. But when you never have any characters of color, with very few exceptions, we've had a couple of exceptions, you know, but not much in this show, and then you finally add one and they're flatly characterized. I mean, he is flatly characterized. If he was an interesting asshole, if he was like a Spike, you know, if he was a Mr. Trick, then I'm in. But to flatly characterize, like, you can't afford it because you don't have enough characters of color on this show. So if you're going to have a character of color, just write them well. Fucking whatever. So
Anyway,
so,
and especially, I mean, there's something extra gross about making the black man are like, you know, always ready to go, sexual
objectifying all
like
the women,
that,
right?
That's, I mean, ooh,
just a little awareness, just you know, whatever.
Not good.
So yeah, that whole thing is really annoying. And the thing is, like, I actually like the actor. I remember him from Heroes. I enjoyed it. So like, I enjoyed the actor. I think that he's charming and he's fun. But what they give him to do is terrible. It's terrible, not just in that he's like a like classically bad person. He's a bad human. He is a broken human. Like there's that, but it's badly written. Like he's just badly written. Yeah. He's written without thinking about him as a character. And then we have Graham, who's just the sweetest. He gets like 2 lines, but maybe she's Canadian. It's just really sweet. Canadians are some of my favorite people in the world. So yes, maybe she is Canadian. I think that's an incredible compliment.
Something I do like about the Forrest Riley standoff at the beginning.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
I do like that they have very different perspectives. I like that, you know, Forrest, I mean, he's being disgusting, but he's like, he's got this whole thing that he's doing, and Riley's just like not interested. Like, I need to grade my papers. And then later on, you know, Forrest is like, oh, I can take a hostel at 30 feet and she won't even, you know, like use her as bait. And Riley's like, no, no way. Right. And pulls rank on him. I like their dynamic. Like there's more story there. Yeah, there's more story there. And I do appreciate that. I like that their energies are very different in the scenes that they're in together. But yeah, I mean, come on. Gross, flat. You don't need to do that. You can make him a jerk. He
can be a jerk, that's fine, but just don't flatly characterize him. Yeah. No, it's really shitty. It's poorly done.
There's some, So speaking of maybe suboptimal decisions, can we talk about that pair of scenes with Spike and Willow?
Oh yes, absolutely. Because I'm saving this for last.
Okay. All right,
because
are we ready?
it's kind of my favorite thing, and it is also like really a problem. So
I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. So for 1999 on the WB, it was the WB at this point, right?
It was the WB.
Yeah,
yes.
this scene between Spike and Willow seems graphic, and then especially so, and then suddenly we're in a comedy. And I just don't. I mean, I really enjoy the writing in both of these scenes, but especially in the post-credits part of the scene. I mean, the jokes are funny, and I also just identify with Willow in a big way. You know, I have been the girl no one wanted.
Aww,
so Willow's assessment of it's me, isn't it? Like it hits home for me. You know, and then Spike, like God bless him, follows up with a specific example of a time he thought about biting her, which I love it. Yes. I love it. But I think that I would love the post-commercials, you know, the performance struggles humor.
Yeah.
Except that in the scene before, the show goes so hard. I mean, the physicality of that assault is brutal, and it is specific. You know, the way he throws her back when she tries to run for the door, and then slowly closes the space between them because he knows that he's won. He's going to kill her. He tells her, you know, I'm not going to give you a choice about that, but I'll give you a choice about, you know, whether I bring you back as a vampire or not. And I was like, okay, hot. But also like, no, you know, you know,
we can't help how we feel, Noelle. It's all right.
I can't help it.
I know.
Also, it's fiction.
Very complicated.
Yes. This is, you know, like sometimes you just have to keep telling yourself, like, this is what fiction is here for. You know,
yes.
But,
exactly.
you know, she screams. And he puts the way he claps his hand over her mouth. This is a thing he did with Drusilla, too, where he would like turn his hand kind of upside down so that it's not just I'm putting my hand on you, but you can see the pressure applied. It's great. It's a great scene physically, but they go so hard, and he's so much bigger and more powerful than she is. And then he cranks the music, and something about that gives me like full body goosebumps, and I start to dissociate a little bit. Like it's really and I don't know what terrifying. It is. Like, why is that so powerful? Is it because it's kind of premeditated because he knows what he's doing? Is it because this song is such a perfect like you know, Lilith Fair era folk rock, you know, girl anthem kind of emotion? I don't know. There's something about that moment and like the seriousness with which he cranks that volume and then throws her down on the bed, and the straddling and the pinning her arms by her sides. And I feel like we all just like, you know, whoo, like it's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot. It's and really then of course the coda on it is the hallway, and nobody knows this is happening. Yeah. You know, just a few feet from all of these other people, and nobody knows. Nobody can hear anything. It's really terrifying. It's really, really intense. And the intensity of that attack for me takes away from the scene that comes afterwards.
It does, because the scene that comes afterwards is so great. But here we have this moment, you know, with them, right? This little scene with them where it's a rape analog. I mean, it's clearly a rape analog, right? Yeah. And then, you know, so in this moment, it's so difficult and it's so terrifying. And, you know, and it can be something that can be really hugely triggering, you know, for anybody, whether you've had the experience or not. It's a horrible thing to watch, and to watch happen to Willow. Like that's really, really hard. So, you know, we go from that into the second scene where we have this erectile dysfunction analog coming right on the heels of the rape analog. Yeah. You know, and it's just a source of real internal conflict for me, because he just tried to like rape her. I mean, metaphorically speaking, but just tried to rape her. And now, metaphorically speaking, he can't rape her, and that's supposed to be funny. And then she comforts him for not being able to rape her. And, you know, so I'm in this like deep conflict with this. And then at the same time, it's so brilliantly done, and I love it with my whole heart, because I just can't help myself, and I blame Doug Petrie.
Well, yeah. I mean, and the patriarchy, right? Because like it's so good. It's so good. Yeah. Like and we've seen Willow be asked to comfort Spike in a moment where she's terrified before.
Right.
This has happened before.
This is not our first rodeo with this.
No.
But I love it. It's so
that is also such a real dynamic, though, in relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, where somebody hurts you, and then the next thing you know, it's like, oh, I got to turn around and like help you with your tender feelings because what?
Exactly.
Like,
Let me make you feel better.
Yeah.
Let me make you feel better. Yeah. And I don't know. It is. And because that is such a real, analog for actual experience, that also makes it uncomfortable. But it's so wonderful. And the thing is, like, in and of itself, when she's like trying to comfort him, and then she's like, it's me. Like, you don't want to bite me. You just came here because I was here. I was available,
Yep.
And he's like, don't be ridiculous. I'd bite you in a heartbeat. And then when he says, remember last year you had on that fuzzy pink number with the lilac underneath, that he remembers what she wore. And it's so incredibly sweet. And yet it's the "you're fuckable" line, which is also gross. It's so difficult. This whole thing is so difficult because I love it so much, and yet it is really, like, when you actually sit and think about it, this is a tough scene.
Yeah. But I also think that it works because, and I mean, like, you and I are both super conflicted about this, but what part of what works?
That's how well it works.
Part of the reason that it works, and I think for folks who are socialized feminine, like, there can be that kind of confusion about, like,
absolutely,
if he's violent toward you, that means you're desirable. That, I mean,
he's passionate about you, right? You're inspiring that passion.
So that, and it's not subtle, right? That, like, being desirable, being biteable. Of course, this is on the heels of Willow feeling not sexy. And that was the thing that made her relationship fall apart. And of course, that's what she's talking about when she says, oh, it's always, you're such a good friend. You're like a sister to me. She is talking about desirability in this moment of violence. And it's so, like, richly, stickily, it's this enmeshed thing that we have about sex and violence and about desirability and equating sexual violence with sexuality instead of with violence. What were you wearing? So it's so bad, but it's also so good because the conclusion of the scene, you're being too hard on yourself. Why don't we wait a half an hour and try again?
And she's
then
like,
she hears herself say it. She hears herself say it. She realizes what she's doing, and then she picks up the lamp and cracks him over the head. And I'm like, there it is.
I know.
There it is.
Yeah. I know.
Oh,
I love it. I fucking
patriarchy,
love it. It's amazing.
though. Like,
it is so. I know. It's so bad, and yet it's so good, and yet I love it so much, and then I feel terrible for loving it, but whatever. So now I feel a little bad about this section that we're about to go into. But Noelle, what are you wearing?
Something slutty. I'm sorry. Now, see, I love this line from Buffy. I have to find something slutty to wear to the party. Because, okay, I know the word slutty is one of those controversial, complicated words. I've had a lot to say. I've had a lot to say on this very show about people being called slutty or clothes being described as slutty, or, said to be looking slutty or whatever. But I think what I dig about this moment from Buffy is that she's happy about it. Like,
there's no shame.
It's part of the party prep. And she is reclaiming it, and it's fun. Especially after her telling Xander in Beer Bad, I'm a slut. Which is just, sweetheart.
It's a complicated relationship that women have with that word.
Yeah. And I mean, I also just find this bit of emotional linguistics really interesting. So Buffy is happy to wear something slutty, but doesn't want to be a slut. And I think a lot of us can identify with some version of that. Really is this, like, it's this really, really tricky needle to thread. And again, folks socialized feminine, like, that's it's a hard thing. So anyway, good talk, everybody.
Good talk.
So, of course, after this line, that I'm going to zero in on what Buffy actually wears to the party.
Right.
So Willow calls it a halter top, but I think it's a backless spaghetti strap tank top bodysuit.
Yeah.
I don't know. It kind of,
know.
It kind of reminds me of her Dancing at the Bronze with Faith top. So slutty? I don't know.
Yeah. Depends on your definition, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for my money, like, it's very sexy. Anything backless, give me all the backless. I'm a backless kind of a, if you ever want to do the sexy thing for my gaze. But I think it's interesting that she calls out this idea of wearing something slutty, and then this is what she wears. And then, of course, Willow uses that as some sort of, there's like code, she's wearing the halter top and sensible shoes. So, like, all dancing, and it's just delightful. Delightful. I love it so much. Now for the boys. Wardrobe has been doing this thing with Riley's button front shirts where they're unbuttoned except for like the bottom button. And I don't know what's going on with that. It looks so ridiculous.
I didn't notice, but now from this point forward, I will never not see that.
Okay. So I think it might be a practical effect. I think it gives him that, like, I just casually threw this on over a t-shirt look without his button front shirt, actually like flapping in the breeze as he walks. Maybe? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
Or, it could symbolize his open-hearted, multi-layered personality.
Right.
No, I think it is a physical effect to keep him looking like trim and lean and, Captain America,
but
even
still
though
casual.
Yeah, even though we're clearly supposed to think that he just like rolled out of bed. Like, he woke up like this.
He woke up like this. Yeah.
And we get so much Riley changing clothes. My goodness.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're not gonna. Nobody hires Mark Blucas and then doesn't have him shirtless. Like,
well, yeah,
which
and well, he's not. I mean, we don't get shirtless yet. I don't think, but we do get some very, very tight t-shirts, and but what but I enjoy the fact that so they go down into the X-Files underground, shiny insulation trapezoid room, and Maggie Walsh is there in her like evil lab coat, because that's how with her like smoked glass desk, and she does the slow turnaround and suit up, gentlemen, whatever. But she tells them to suit up and get ready, and they don't leave the cave, but they're all suddenly wearing different clothing, and I'm like, did you just strip down in front of Professor Walsh?
Sure.
What?
Yeah.
What?
I don't think that's the first time. I think that's part of the reason why she took this job. Yeah. I think Walsh is into it.
Young.
Yeah.
Muscular.
Young men.
Yeah.
There you go. Absolutely.
And then, of course, Riley in the bushes with the binoculars, and the boys want to use Buffy as bait, and he's like, no, I got to get her out of there. And, of course he is changing clothes in the bushes, presumably because he's not wearing his commando gear.
His commando
when he goes to
outfit,
confront her.
yes.
But anytime anyone on the show or on this podcast says commando, I think no underpants. Like, I can't help myself. So no underpants. Yes. They are the no underpants team. The initiative.
They are the no underpants team.
No underpants across the board. So that was not so much like, is clothing deeply meaningful in this episode? Probably, somehow. I just got distracted by Mark Blucas and his t-shirts and and defining our terms slutty party gear. So
I love it. I love it. I think it's great. All right. So what's your girl power moment of the week?
So I love Willow. I love Willow, full stop. But I love Willow in the scene with Riley. I've seen honest faces before. They usually come attached to liars.
I love that.
And like, yes. Yep. Amen, sister. Wow. And then again at the party, and remember, if you hurt her, I will beat you to death with a shovel.
I know. She's so good.
And I buy it.
So
I think she really would.
Oh, she would. It might be a magical shovel. But she
Yeah.
would absolutely do it. She would
Yeah.
find a way to, as tiny as she is, she would find a way to overpower Riley. I believe that in the Thunderdome between Willow and Riley, Willow comes out. Like,
Yeah.
that's it,
Yeah.
All right. So, Noelle, what is your favorite part?
I love Riley and Willow as not accomplices.
Right.
I love them. I love the sneaking, her like walking over to him at the party. The music that accompanies
Yeah.
that is clearly like, okay, we are doing spy stuff. We're on a mission.
Yes,
It's like
absolutely.
like cartoon spy
Absolutely.
stuff. And I love Harmony. I'm so gonna bite you.
I know.
I'm so gonna bite
I
you.
know. Oh, it's so cute. It's so incredibly cute. I mean, for me, clearly, like my favorite part, much to my great shame, is the Spike and Willow stuff. Like, this is the thing that I always remember about this episode, the thing that stands out in this episode. It always delights me, despite like the very real feelings I have about
Yup.
it. So it's a good scene, and I love Spike and Willow. I love that relationship. I love the way that they kind of care for each other in this really sweet way, and I can't help it. It delights me. So I'm just gonna have to deal with that and take it to my therapist.
That's what fiction is there for. just
That's what fiction is for. If you enjoyed this conversation, would like to join in, come find us on Twitter. I am at Lonnie Diane Rich, and Noelle is at Noelle Aloud, and the hashtag is still pretty.
This episode of Still Pretty was brought to you by the Chipperish media producers who support us on Patreon at the power producer level. These people are the reason why Still Pretty is coming to you free and ad-free right now, so thank you to our September producers: Kevin, West, Shelley, Abigail, Kristen, Noelle, Deborah, Jonathan, Alyssa, Alice, Erica, Sarah, and Heather. This week's special message for our power producers: we loved you in that fuzzy pink number with the lilac underneath.
To find out how you too can support Chipperish Media, visit patreon.com/chipperish right now. And there are other ways to show your support. Write a great review on Apple Podcasts, tell your friends about the show, or make raspberry punch for Xander and his little friend.
We will be back next time with Pangs, the 8th episode of season 4. Until then, if you hurt her, I will beat you to death with a shovel. A vague disclaimer is nobody's friend. Have fun!